Hey, something that I've been breaking down into detail for you consistently is my lawn. And Green Lawn Fertilizing is the best in the Philadelphia area, the best in the market. Experts in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. They're so knowledgeable about what they do, it's not even funny. And I just posted the other day on my social media platforms a video of my lawn and showing you the progression from where we started, where I had no idea what I was doing. That's why I called the experts in the first place, and where we are now after only 2 treatments, and it is night and day. Now, there's still work to be done. They're coming for another set of treatments in just a couple of weeks, but holy smokes, when you see the difference, you might faint because of how glorious it looks, and I can't wait to see the finished product that we're here already. It's already this beautiful. Just wait until the whole thing's over. And Green Lawn Fertilizing wants you to know that they are offering 50% off for your first 2 treatments. If you sign up down below with my link, it'll tell them that Brodes sent you. 50% off your first 2 treatments. It's a no-brainer. Make sure you get started with the Green Lawn Fertilizing family today.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on in to Bleacher Report on this Wednesday evening. And I'm stunned. Dallas Goedert, the Philadelphia Eagles, making this thing work and getting him back in Kelly Green. Now, it's less shocking after the draft. You would have thought that maybe that's when there would be a trade on the table, or maybe even prior to the draft, how he would have figured something out. So now that we are this far along in the process, I'm not as shocked. But if you told me after listening to the owner talk about the importance of treating these players like humans and like people and not just football players, and how it gets very tough sometimes because we so desperately want to win, and sometimes you got to make really harsh decisions, but you really care and love for these people and their families and who they are and everything that they have put into the community, into this culture, into this team, into this organization. And it stings, but there are times where good people have to walk away for the bigger vision. And it was all about implying Dallas Goedert wouldn't be here much longer. Same was said by Nick Sirianni. Same was said by the general manager. So the top 3 most important people in all of the organization over the last few months have made it clear that it doesn't seem like these 2 parties are going to be able to make this work. And here we are, and I'm so happy. I'm in love with the idea of Dallas Goedert returning, because what I kept hearing was Howie Roseman is taking his foot off the gas in 2025, coming off of a Super Bowl, and trying to focus on keeping the window open. And I disagreed. While I think there was absolutely an approach to keep the window open as long as humanly possible so they could do more damage with the current roster, that doesn't mean that 2025 comes with the season where you're not really giving it your all. It would be stupid to keep the window open but not apply pressure, not apply the right mentality. At that point, you're not doing it right. At that point, I almost think it's counterproductive. You always need to have a vision when the window is open to go after it. Because if not, then the idea is stupid. Then the idea is silly. Then you're not executing. So I never really agreed to that narrative, that that's what Howie is doing. We're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. You think they don't care how 25 goes because they're happy and thrilled with where they are? I think they're starving for more. I think they are so hungry, it's not even funny. You think you're hungry when your stomach growls 3 times because you haven't had a snack in an hour and a half? These guys, they have things that are rumbling around, and it's so massive that people think there's a damn earthquake going on, but it's just Jeffrey, Lurie, Howie, Nick, and everybody else saying, I need another ring. I need another Lombardi to put in that trophy case. So if you can financially find a way, let's make it happen. And to be honest with you, I thought maybe the hit would be less than 10 mil for Goedert. He was originally scheduled for about 14. It ends up being about 10. I thought that the Eagles would have to get to a number around maybe 7 to make them satisfied with this. But again, you know Howie is going to do Howie things, and we'll see how it all shapes up. But I just think it's so phenomenal, especially when you see how much better this team is with run blocking when he's on the field compared to off the field. And they didn't really have a backup. And maybe we should have seen this coming when they go through the draft weekend without having anybody selected. When Zach Ertz was going goodbye and they elected to move off of one of the most important tight ends in Eagles franchise history, they already had the next wave in the works. And when you study a lot of these positions and a lot of these great players that this team has had over the years, they seem to have the next man up already sort of soaking in information, getting knowledge, drafted early. So whenever they do say, thank you so much for everything you gave to us, to a Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert is ready to flourish. As soon as Brandon Graham leaves, Nolan Smith enters. As soon as Fletcher Cox leaves, Jalen Carter enters. As soon as Jason Kelce leaves, boom, Cam Jurgens enters. It's just one big cycle. So if they have Grant Calcaterra, I was just maybe wondering if they thought Grant Calcaterra was better than a lot of this fan base perceives, and after a few years of playing a specific role, if he entered the year knowing, hey, this is your gig, this is your slot, this is what we need you to do, we trust you, we believe in you, let's have at it, and that was sort of the focus, and they kind of clean up a lot of other areas, and tight end takes a hit. Maybe they felt strongly about Grant Calcaterra more so than a lot of fans did. But obviously that assessment, and it was just pure speculation, of course, based off of thinking Dallas Goedert was going to be gone. They clearly didn't feel that way because they were working on a way to make sure Goedert could be at least somewhat reasonably happy. Now, it was reported by Jeff McLean of the Philadelphia Inquirer that he did have options to leave. So this also dates back to something that we've been screaming about as Eagles fans for a few months now, which is, man, you see what this organization is. You want to play here. You value playing here. And there's always going to be more emotional ties when you were drafted here, you were developed here, you had a chance to play in a couple of Super Bowls. So when you already have that history with a specific group of people, it's a lot easier to feel comfortable and want to return, and you have that family feel. So I get that. It is different than maybe an outsider looking in, but you have now established that Philadelphia Eagles logo as someone who is staring from the outside, really wanting to thrive and really wanting to cook and really wanting to flourish. They want to see themselves in the Eagles colors, and that's what you've built here with the most recent sustained success. Hell, again, for the third or fourth time, there are now media members who are very loud and vocal. This time around, it's Brian Baldinger going, yo, just find Justin Simmons a house in South Jersey, and this guy's ready to go. He is basically on his hands and knees begging Vic Fangio to bring him in. Now, I would definitely be interested. I would love the idea of him here, even with you drafting Andrew Makuba. There's no such thing as having too much great talent in one place at one time. Battle it out. Healthy competition. Best man wins. A couple second-team All-Pros, a couple of Pro Bowls. All right, Justin Simmons, let's see what you got after a year in Atlanta, which you deemed wasn't really comfortable for you, and a long stretch of great play in Denver. Let's see what you got. Can you beat out the young pup in Makuba? At that point, I wouldn't think Sidney Brown really has a high percent chance. I think it would be between Makuba and Justin Simmons. But hey, if Justin Simmons is more of a Isaiah Rodgers role, which is he gets thrown in there if someone has to miss time, if someone needs to leave the game. We saw that with Darius Slay. Isaiah Rodgers slid in. Maybe that could be something because you need depth. You need a lot of guys. And maybe now that you figured out the Dallas Goedert money and the finances with with Goedert, maybe that allows for you to get more creative and push certain buttons with the finances to get Justin Simmons here on a number that makes sense for him and that makes sense for us. The only thing that's making me wonder if they are going to look in that direction seriously and actually make it happen is they've had the chance now to make this happen. Now, there's multiple different layers to this. You needed a lot of cards to fall a certain way to truly see where you stand. And I wouldn't be surprised, knowing how determined Justin Simmons is to be here, if Howie Roseman was talking to him and his agent and it went something along the lines of this. We're working things out with Goedert behind the scenes. We're trying to figure out how this draft is going to go. We traded CJ GJ, so we are aware of where we stand with our roster and his belief in Vic Fangio and his 1-2 and his will and his determination to be here. Let's see where everything aligns. And from there, we'll definitely stay in touch and make a phone call. So it's less about maybe not wanting him, because if they wanted him, it would have happened by now, right? There's some people out there with that theory. It's strange and bizarre for it to linger this long. And why not previously? Not just this year, but Vic Fangio was here prior and all that kind of stuff, right? And it took him a little bit of time to get signed last year with the Atlanta Falcons. So if they had this desire to get him in the NovaCare complex, he'd already be here. And I get that, but there are so many details that have to get ironed out before that if they like him, but he's not a top priority, they just need other things to happen first. And if you remember, Joe Banner tweeted this out maybe a few months back, that we always talk about the finances with Howie as if it's fake. And there's a big part of me that thinks you can always manipulate it. So in a way it is fake, but he put it in perspective where we might be in a spot now where Howie has to get the most creative he's ever had to get, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because how many times do people around the league study what the Eagles do on a day-to-day basis and on an off-season to off-season basis and wonder, how do they do it? How do they pay Cam? How do they pay Landon? How do they pay Jordan? How do they figure out Lane Johnson's extensions? When they gave Jalen Hurts his dough, they gave AJ and Devontae Smith their bread. Hey, Saquon Barkley gets this bag, and then they work out a nice little added sweetener and a cherry on top this most recent offseason. How do they do this? They pay Zach Bond. Well, at some point there is a price to pay with it. So maybe you're backed up into a corner, but not to a point where you can't be efficient. You just have to be a little bit more intense on what you do. You have to be a little bit more precise. And if that's where the Eagles currently stand, from another mind that had to do this before in Joe Banner, then maybe that's a reason why it isn't as easy as just bringing Justin Simmons in. Let's figure out Goedert. Let's figure out everything else, and we will make sure that once the list starts to get checked off and we see exactly where we stand, we'll see how we can bring him in. I just think that would be a good idea to motivate Andrew Makuba, to motivate Justin Simmons to win out that job. And it's all healthy competition that I think would be tremendous. So I still have that on my radar, but I just can't be more happier that Dallas Goedert is returning, because the drop-off from him and where you were standing without him, I talked myself into still believing this team is going to be great, and there's no reason to not believe that even if Goedert wasn't here. But if you add that wave of he is here, then you're even significantly stronger than I already thought this team was going to be. And yeah, there is a massive difference between him and some of the tight ends that you picked up that are just guys, if you're being honest, and Grant Calcaterra. And we did this before, though, with Josh Sweat. So we have seen them work this type of move in the past. And maybe the thought process for Dallas Goedert is, if I have a great season, I can see myself doing exactly what Josh Sweat did, which is, here we go, baby. Let's make a lot of noise. Let's make sure everybody around the league knows my name. And then when it's time for me to maybe chase that money after another fantastic run with the Eagles, Arizona was willing to pay Josh Sweat. Maybe Goedert feels strongly about that path following him. But the only argument I would make against that is, while I think that's great for Goedert to maybe do that, which means the Eagles would benefit because he's going to go all out and he's going to be very determined to have a phenomenal season. And, we'll see what happens with the health. It does seem like he misses a few games a year, but I'd rather have Goedert than not have Goedert, even with the missed games. As long as he's there at the biggest time of the year, he may miss weeks 5, 6, 7, 8. But if he's there for the NFC Championship game, if he's there for a divisional round, if he's there for a wild card game, whoever this lines up, now, wild card game, I don't know. I can see ourselves, being in a good spot, but I digress. The truth is, if he is healthy and available, when it's the big moments, when it's the big games, when the lights at the link are on and it's Sunday Night Football or it's 425 on championship weekend, and that's what it's all about. And he can be there for that. He may miss a few regular season games and whatnot. I will have the payoff for sure. But the one thing going back to him trying to follow maybe the footsteps of Josh Sweat is Josh Sweat, he wasn't 30 plus years old. Josh Sweat isn't at the stage of the career that Goedert is. He's got a couple of years with Arizona before he even gets to where Dallas Goedert is now age-wise. Josh Sweat, 28, Dallas Goedert, 31. He'll be 31 in January. So following that season, they'll be talking about him essentially being 32 at that upcoming year. So it's not apples to apples, but truth be told, we got to take this one step at a time, and we'll figure out the later stages of the Dallas Goedert stuff. Right now, I'm just happy to see him here in 2025, and I'm just super pumped, man. I mean, he's definitely been a staple of Eagles football. He has for now a few years, and this window that we've gotten to, just been a key piece inside the NovaCare complex, outside the NovaCare complex, the type of teammate he is, the type of work ethic he brings. And when you lose Brandon Graham, and I think this is almost a good comparison to the Brandon Graham day that happened on Monday, Nick Sirianni spoke about how every workplace needs a guy like that. And when you lose a talented person, as Brandon Graham is, it's so hard to replace. And I say this many times that you don't really replace Brandon Graham because he's one of a kind, but you have to find ways to uniquely lead in different styles. And when you package everybody pulling their own weight, then it equals a Brandon Graham. It won't be the same smile, won't be the same infectious type of attitude. It won't be the same way he goes to work. I mean, Nick Sirianni shared a story about how Brandon Graham was so ready for practice all the time that this man would show up where everybody else is in their street clothes, and prior to putting on their pads, this man's locked in, and he's already got his stuff all on, and he's got his pads on, and he's just ready to go for practice. And everybody else is sort of in normal clothes, and he's just that ready to rock. You can't replace that stuff. But when you have people like Dallas Goedert and a few of them collectively do what they do on a day-to-day basis, then it 1,000% helps fill the hole that is no longer having 55 in that locker room. So I just think the presence of him is very important, knowing what it means to compete in this city, knowing what it means to thrive, to get back, knowing what it means to be around these guys like AJ and Devontae and this O-line again, and just having another game plan here this season to embrace this year's journey and to get back to the promised land. You need to be wired differently. And when you can trust that the tight end who's going to start and log a lot of snaps as long as he is healthy, to understand that he already knows what that's like, and he's already been through the grind before and made it all the way to the top, and now you're trying to redo it again. I just think there's so much value in that when you kind of know what to expect. You know the expectation, you know the standard, you know the process, you know the work ethic, you know the fan base, you know the community, you know it all. Whenever you bring that in or bring that back, and it was almost close to going in a different way, and then you're able to kind of secure that role again, it always puts a smile on my face. So I'm loving it. I'm having such a big blast in my head here, closing my eyes, picturing him run out of the tunnel again at the link. Now, Sheil Kapadia says Dallas Goedert last year, he was second among all tight ends in yards per route run, behind only George Kittle. Big drop-off in run blocking from tight ends when he missed time. This is a big win for the 2025 Eagles. They did not have a good backup plan if they needed to trade him or release him. John McMullen, who is a part of Sports Illustrated and some other platforms, he went into detail a little bit about something similar that I said about Josh Sweat and Dallas Goedert, but Some of the other names here is Kylan Granson and Harrison Bryant are also some of the tight ends that are on this roster. And now those names mean significantly less than they already did prior, if I'm being honest with you. And now they just get pushed down even more. So what else is going on in Eagles land? There's a few things. One, I can make fun of the Dallas Cowboys pretty easily right now. How about this? So they trade a third-round pick for George Pickens, and everybody on Twitter, everybody on X right now in the Dallas Cowboys land, at least from the ones I've seen, are all so pumped up saying, we got the best duo in the NFC East. Somebody try stopping CeeDee Lamb and Pickens. We are thrilled, and we just got so much firepower and ammo. How dumb are you? How stupid can you be? You're telling me you watch this dysfunction. You watch this crap. You watch Jerry Jones burn that franchise into the ground with embarrassing decisions after embarrassing decisions, not knowing how to utilize the salary cap properly, waiting for guys to get pissed off, pay them too late, overpay them, all this nasty stuff. And then you bring in a head case, an absolute problem, someone who is so drama-filled, a ridiculous personality, to go in with all the chaos and drama that is nonstop in Dallas land, and you think you guys just have a fix now to be a top elite team in the NFC? I mean, it's sad. It's sad that they actually feel this way. It's sad that they are that ill that they think their football team is going to be good because of this pick. It's Pickens, excuse me. And look, I mean, yes, he is a talented wide receiver. You know who's really good? Michael Parsons. You know who's really good? CeeDee Lamb. I've seen them have good individual talent. Who's their head coach? I don't know what Dak Prescott is at this particular time. I've seen them have good individual talent. You know what they've done with that? Lose. Lose. Fail. Flop. Fall flat on their face. And this is nothing different. I mean, Steelers fans are thrilled that they were able to get a third. While there are people out there mocking Howie. Think of this. Cowboys fans mocking Howie Roseman, two-time Super Bowl champion, by the way, who is just on another planet right now of greatness. They're mocking him for acquiring Jahan Dotson for a third because they got Pickens for a third. Why do you think someone like Pickens went for a third? Because there's a lot that comes with it. And you're going to realize that real quick. And he's a pain in the ass. And he causes problems. And it's going to be a headache. And it's going to be bad. And by week 5, 6, 7, 8, you're going to be dealing with all these crazy storylines and headlines. You didn't show up to practice. You didn't do this. He said something on the sidelines. He was screaming at somebody here. His post-game remarks. What was he saying? Then Jerry Jones is going to have to do a interview that night on one of the stations there in Texas, and instead of talking about the game, he's going to talk about George Pickens and what it meant for him to scream in the face of their new coach and scream at CeeDee Lamb and this and that, and him and Dak Prescott got after it, and it was unhealthy what went down in the locker room, and it's going to be all that crap. So, I mean, I find it funny because I thought, believe it or not, maybe this is me being ill. I actually thought Cowboys fans have now hit a point prior to this move where they understood that they can't trust this franchise. They just can't trust this franchise. They may love the franchise. They may want to believe in the franchise, but they know it is hot garbage. They know it's incompetent. They know that they are just not ran well, and they're not going to figure it out until Jerry Jones is no longer a part of the decision-making and all that stuff, right? And it's more about popularity of the logo than it is the football team. I thought they already came to their senses that that's what Dallas Cowboys football is in 2025. Yet the second they make a trade for Pickens, now all of a sudden they're Super Bowl contenders. Lazy, just lazy reaction. So, I mean, I just find that hilarious. I find that hysterical. Sad. But Cowboys fans are sad. So I guess it kind of makes sense when it's all said and done. All right, that's going to do it for me. I'm trying to see if I have anything else on my notes here. But if I did miss anything, I think I hit on pretty much everything I wanted to.